Welcome to my channel. I'm the Metalhead Physicist. So, in this lecture, we're going to solve this problem in which a particle of mass m slides down a frictionless circular surface of radius r. Okay, so the particle starts from here. Okay, this curve here is actually a quarter of a circle. So if you take up to this point, that would make a complete hemisphere or semicircle. So we assume that the velocity at this point, at the starting point, is zero. So what we want to solve now is the velocity as it reaches the bottom. Okay, so we are going to solve this in three solutions. And this is actually to show you how easy it is to solve problems using the conservation of energy instead of using dealing with Newton's laws by using vectors. Okay, so let's start. So here I have already drawn a coordinate system. Um, we assume that our coordinate system moves with the particle. So when the mass is at this point here, the x-axis of our coordinate system is the tangent line, okay, to the circle at that point, meaning that would make our y-axis to be to coincide with the radial line. So this is the radial line. So um, the radial line, we know that the radial line is perpendicular to the tangent line. So that's why, okay, this will be our x and this will be our y-axis. So this is the positive x and the positive y-axis. Okay, so first we may want to calculate the normal force here. Although since this is frictionless, we don't need the normal force. But let's just calculate it because in the third solution, we are going to be needing the normal force, or at least we know the important. This is actually what's the importance of the normal force here. Suppose that this surface here would undergo some what do you call this one? Meaning that the surface is, for example, you put a weighing scale on the particle. There's a weighing scale there. What you're going to measure, okay, or here, suppose that this surface would be, there's an effect on this surface due to the mass pressure on the surface, and that amount of damage, okay, to the surface will be dependent on n. Okay, so that's why n is important. Okay, because n is the reaction to any force applied against the surface. Okay, so let's calculate n. So to calculate n, although as I've said, we don't need to calculate n here in order to solve the velocity at this point because this is frictionless, but nevertheless we want to get n. Okay, now notice at this point here, you have n going down, and of course the component of the weight with respect to the y-axis, or we call this the radial direction, okay, is just this. Okay, and we have a right triangle here. So here is our weight y, and this will be our weight x. Now, if this angle is theta, we use our angle theta as the particle slides down the circular surface. It traces it open. It makes an angle from the center with this horizontal line here. So we have to express this angle in terms of that angle, and we can do this by just elementary geometry. So here, let's make a parallel line here, parallel to this one. So that would mean, since these are alternate angles, this means that this angle here is theta. Okay, so this angle is theta. Now, if that angle is theta, okay, and of course, this angle here must be pi over 2 minus theta, or 90 degrees minus theta. This would make this angle theta. Okay? So therefore, this angle right here is just theta. We can actually use theta here, or this theta here. Well, we can just use this angle theta here. Okay? Meaning that this is like the inclined plane, only that yeah, this is just, at this point here, it's like that. It's just like the particle is moving through an inclined plane, infinitesimal inclined plane. Because a circular path, if you take it to be very, very small, then of course that becomes a straight line. So at this infinitesimal distance, meaning that this is very small, this interval is very small, it seems like the particle is sliding down an inclined plane. Now, what's the angle of that inclined plane? Well, certainly the angle of that inclined plane is pi over 2 minus theta. It would be the same as this angle here. So this is pi over 2 minus theta. We can use this theta to find weight y and weight x. Okay? Now, there's another force here. We know that we are undergoing circular motion. There must be an acceleration, and there's actually what we call a centripetal acceleration going to the center in order to change its velocity. I mean, the direction of the velocity at any instant. The direction of the velocity is changing at any instant. Okay? So that centripetal force will cause what we call for the people moving for you know this is actually a what do you call this one, a roller coaster. For the person moving with this mass here, that person is going to feel that the effect of the centripetal force, and that is what we call the centrifugal force. And why is that? Because if you put if you put a person that moves with the particle, that person is in a non-inertial frame of reference. That's why we have to take into account the effect of non-inertial forces. Okay, so the fictitious force. Centrifugal force is the fictitious force that counters the centripetal force when you are in a non-inertial frame of reference. Okay, so that means I'm talking about the centrifugal force. The centrifugal force is that force that counters the centripetal force when you are in a non-inertial frame of reference. That's why if you're if this is a car, imagine a two-dimensional. This is just the horizontal. If you're moving this way, that one, you're feeling a force towards here. Okay, and the car can actually slides on this direction here, and that is due to the centrifugal force, because the people, including the car, is in a non-inertial frame of reference. Okay, so therefore the sum of all these forces. Okay, I'll start here. The sum of forces in the y, or this is in the radial direction, that would be on the positive is n, and on the negative you have weight y, and weight y is just mg sine of theta. This is weight y. So this is minus mg sine of theta, and the centrifugal force, because the centrifugal force is directed here, and the magnitude of the centrifugal force is just equal to the centripetal force, which is this is minus mv squared over r, or in this case v squared is r squared theta dot squared. Okay, so over r, so this is now mr theta dot, where theta dot is d theta over dt, and this must be equal to 0. Okay, because it does not move on the horizontal. At least in your coordinate frame, in the non-inertial frame, is that the particle is not moving in that. Okay, from here we can see that our normal force is just mr theta dot plus mg sine of, or maybe I want to write it the other way to emphasize the addition of the centrifugal force, mg sine theta plus mr theta dot. Now notice that if we don't have if this is not moving in a circle, sliding in a circle, this is the yeah, this one will vanish. Okay, so that we only have the normal force due to the component of the gravity perpendicular to the surface. Okay, but what this will actually help, meaning that this adds up to the normal force, meaning that it adds effect on here. It causes the particle to stick more into the surface, and if there's a friction here, if this is not frictionless, this centrifugal force will cause it will cause the friction to increase. Okay, to be greater than if it were moving just in a straight line. Okay, so, and this is actually also notice that, okay, suppose that this completes a circle. I don't know if you have already seen a stunt called the wall of, I think it's called the wall of death. The motorcycle goes around a loop, and when the motorcycle reaches this point here, we know that the normal force is going down, and also the weight is going down. What keeps it sticking on the, what keeps it to stick on the wall and cause the friction on the wheel, cause frictions on the wheel so that it can still move, is the fact that there is a force going there called the centrifugal force. Without this centrifugal force, this will fall down, okay, to the ground. Okay, so that's why we have this one here. Okay, so now, so much with the normal force. We are going to I mean, we will be using this later in our third solution. Now, for our first solution, as I've said, we use Newton's laws of motion to solve this problem. Okay, purely Newton's laws. Now, since there is no, we can actually just use the tangential component. Notice that this is the radial and this is the tangential component, or the sum along x. Okay, so summation of forces along x. What are the forces along x? And clearly you have weight x, and here there's nothing. Okay, there's no other force acting on x, so this is now equal to the mass of the object times the acceleration of the object, which is the tangential acceleration. But what is the tangential acceleration? In our previous lecture, we know that the tangential acceleration of a particle moving in a circle is just r alpha, where alpha is the angular acceleration, or just this is just omega dot, or since omega dot is theta dot, so meaning this is now theta double dot, d squared theta over dt squared. Okay, let me remind you that the notation of the dot, theta dot, is equal to d theta over dt. So it follows that d theta double dot, d squared theta over dt squared. For our audience who doesn't know this, okay, instead of using prime whenever we differentiate with the parameter time, we use the dot. So this is like the prime in your ordinary derivative. Okay, so from here, what is weight x? Weight x is, clearly this is just mg sine, no, sorry, this is cosine of theta equals m r theta double dot. And here, clearly m cancels out. We get our differential equation. Theta double dot is equal to g over r cosine of theta. Now, of course, to those who doesn't have a differential equation, and even though to those who has already taken differential equation, this is a nonlinear differential equation, and this is actually difficult to solve, and it cannot be solved analytically. We're not going to solve that one here because this is an elementary course on physics. The last time is that in our previous lecture we guessed the solution. That's all you can do for now if your background is in basic calculus. All you can do is guess what theta of t, remember that the solution for this one is we want to calculate theta of t. This is the solution. What theta of t, such that when you differentiate it twice with respect to time, it will give us this function cosine times g over r times cosine of theta t. Okay, but of course, even with guessing, I don't think it's possible to guess the solution for this one. But the good thing here is that we are not actually looking for theta dot. What we are looking, remember, our problem is solving the velocity here. So the velocity at this point means that since the velocity of that point is just equal to r of theta dot, okay, we are interested with theta dot and not with theta. Okay, so if that's the case, we can express the second derivative with respect to the first derivative by the chain rule. Remember here that if if this is a function of theta dot, double dot is a function of theta dot is a function of theta. Okay, let me write this equation here explicitly. So that is d theta, d squared theta over dt squared, which actually can be written as d over dt times d theta over dt, right? Okay, and so this means that this is d theta dot, because this is d theta over dt, is d theta dot over dt. Okay, and since theta dot could be a function of theta itself, okay, we use the chain rule. This can be taken as d theta dot over d theta times d theta over dt. Notice that this last term here, okay, this last factor here is actually theta dot. So meaning this is just theta dot. Okay, so this whole equation here, this one is equal to that one. So, okay, that would mean now that d theta dot over d theta times theta dot equals g over r cosine of theta. So, we can move this one here, and so this equation now would become theta dot d theta dot times this. And we know that this is integrable. This can easily be integrated. Okay, we integrate both sides and integrate this from theta dot is the initial angular velocity. So we can set this as theta dot, not the initial, but since we assume that the velocity is 0 here, that means that so is the angular velocity. So this means that this goes from 0 to some theta dot, to some angular velocity theta dot at any point here. Okay? And this one here is our angle. We started from this one, which is, this point is cosine of 0, and up to this point. But let's just use this 0 to some theta, meaning that we can end anywhere between this. Okay? And we'll just substitute it later for whatever value of theta we want. So clearly, this integrates to 1/2 theta dot squared minus 1/2 0 squared. So this is just 0, so equals. And this is cosine of theta minus cosine of, the integral of cosine of theta is sine of theta. So this is g over r sine of theta evaluated from theta to 0. We know that sine of 0 is 0. So this is just g sine theta. Okay? So our problem is already solved actually. Notice that if we multiply r here, both sides, we multiply both sides by r squared, 2r squared. Okay, multiplying both sides by 2r squared. What we get now is r squared theta dot squared equals 2g r sine of theta. And notice that this is just, this one whole thing is just r theta dot squared. But what is r theta dot? That is actually our velocity. Okay? So meaning that this one here is just v squared. Okay? So the square of the velocity at any point is just 2g times r times sine of the angle in which it formed by the particle with the horizontal with respect to the center. Okay, now we can now solve the velocity here, because this point here on the ground is that when theta is actually equal to pi over 2. If theta is pi over 2, that would mean that this is just 1. So that means, okay, theta is pi over 2. This is now the velocity at the ground, and v is equal to square root of 2gr. And as you notice, this is familiar because we also solved the same for the inclined plane. Inclined plane sliding down from a height h, only this time our height is actually r. And this happens because our system is conservative, although there's an existence of a non-conservative force here, but the non-conservative force is doing no work on the system, so it's path independent. Whether you move it on an inverted circle or a straight line or whatever parabolic path, as long as it is frictionless and that the normal force does no work, it does no work to the system, then this will be the velocity. Okay, so this is the first solution, and as you notice, it takes a while for me to solve it. Okay, so again, I'll just erase this in order to give way for our second solution. So v is the square root of 2gr. Now for our second solution, okay, let me write the second solution in blue. The second solution is using conservation of energy. And last time I already derived to you the conservation of energy. Delta T, or T is actually kinetic energy, or I'll just use delta KE equals, delta KE plus delta PE equals 0. Okay? Or this equation translates to 1/2 m initial V naught squared plus our potential here is purely what is the cause of the potential energy at this point. Then the only active force here is just gravity. The only actual force being applied to the system is just gravity, and it's the reaction of the surface to gravity. So therefore, the potential, remember, what is the potential energy? PE is equal to minus, PE, or here, F is minus dPE over dy. Height is y. This is gravitational potential energy. Or, okay, I think, okay, I can just say this is mgh, but let me derive to you why is it mgh. Okay, remember that in our previous lesson, this is coming from the integral. Okay, this is the integral of f dx, in this case dy. Okay, and the work done by the force. Okay, so f dy, the work done by the force, this is, if the force is gravity, dy, therefore this is just equal to, starting from y naught to y, this is just equal to mg y minus mg y naught. So this work done actually by the gravity is just equal to the change in the potential energies. Okay, this is the final minus the initial. So if I'm going to plug it here, okay, using this equation, okay, you would see that this is now mg y naught equals 1 half mv final squared, just v squared, plus mg y final. If we let this is our initial points, the naught, and this is the final point, we know that this is 0, and this is 0 as well, the final. And mg y naught is just r. Okay, so this is just r, and m will cancel out. And as you can see, v squared equals 2gr, and this means that our v is the square root of 2gr. Notice the difference in our solution here. In the energy conservation, we don't even need to use calculus, even the most basic of calculus. We just had algebra in 2 lines of equations. This is how powerful the conservation of energy is. Okay. Okay. This is to demonstrate to you the power of this. Okay, and as you can see, there's many lines of equation, and actually I omitted a lot. I mean, yeah, there are some shortcuts here, and meaning that this goes maybe up to 10 lines with different steps. This one is just a single step with 2 lines of equation. Okay, so I'm not saying that we're not going to calculus using conservation of energy, because when the system now becomes non-conservative, we have to deal with friction now and integrate it. But again, that would be a lot still easier in the conservation of energy as compared to the purely Newtonian approach. Okay, so I'm going to, in the next video, we will solve this by assuming now that there is friction. Okay, assuming that the surface now is frictionless. Okay, so for now, let's go to the third solution. Okay, so I'll erase this, all of this. The third solution is using, remember in the class that okay, so the third solution is, remember in the class that I showed to you when we derived the rotational, the equation, in the episode that we derived the torque, there is this force, F prime, or actually F net, which is, it has a radial component and a tangential component. And when we write it in terms of Cartesian, this force was just equal to m. The way I wrote it was using omega squared x minus alpha y I hat plus m times minus omega squared y plus alpha x j hat. Okay, so this was the force, which is made up of two forces, the centripetal force plus the tangential force. And that actually tangential force will give rise, if you're moving in the non-inertial frame, that tangential force, you're going to feel that as what we call the Euler force, which is the negative of that tangential, the magnitude that is negative, the tangential force, just like the centrifugal force is the negative of the centripetal force. But anyway, we don't need that here. Okay, so using our notation, the theta dot notation, this means this is now theta dot, and this is theta double dot, and this is now okay, maybe I'll just use omega and alpha. Okay, because it's easier to distinguish them. So omega and alpha. Okay, now this net force is, as I've said, it gives us, whenever the particle rotates in a circular path, the net force is the one that is causing the torque and the centripetal force at the same time. Now, we don't know where the net force lies here. I'll just assume that the net force is going this way. Well, of course, we can just use vector sum, but I'll just use an arbitrary just to emphasize, is that the net force could be this. This could be our F net, this one thing here. Okay? This is our F net. Okay. So, this F net is actually the sum of two forces, weight and N. Okay? So, that means that the weight and the normal force together causes the particle to move on a circular surface. Okay? For whatever forces, okay, in fact, this F net here is equal to whatever forces that you apply to the particle. It could just be more than N and the weight. There could be other applied forces there. Okay? So long as that the particle moves in a circle, okay? And actually, this can be generalized not even to a circle. Okay? If x squared plus y, okay, by the way, let me remind you, x squared plus y squared equals r squared. If this is satisfied at every point in the path, at every point xy, then the particle is moving a circle. But in fact, this equation doesn't need this constraint. This is a constraint to be satisfied. Okay? If it is not satisfied, then it's moving in an arbitrary curve. This is always true. Okay? Meaning that for whatever forces acting on the particle, okay, actual forces, the sum of all those forces is always equal to this form. Okay? This is always the sum of all those forces. So this means that this implies that W, the weight vector, plus the normal force must be equal to F net. This is our MA. Okay, remember that this is just our MA. And A now is actually both made up into tangential and radial. Okay? So, anyway, so what is N? Remember that the magnitude of N, we solved the magnitude of N before as previously, at the start of this lecture. N is equal to mg sine of theta plus the magnitude of the centripetal force, which is m v squared over r, or actually mr theta, or in this case mr omega. Okay? I think it's, mv squared, so v squared is r, mr omega squared. Okay? So, if we are going to take the component of N, meaning that since N is equal to nxi plus nyj, this means that nx is just this. Notice that nx here, this is our nx, and this is our ny. Nx is cosine. That means that this is nx is just this times cosine of theta. Okay, so this means that nx is just mg sine theta cosine theta mg sine theta cosine theta plus m omega squared r cosine theta, and this is just our I hat. This is the nx component of the normal force, okay? Plus ny is just this times sine of theta. So our ny now would be mg sine squared, it becomes now a sine squared theta times this. So we have now plus m omega squared r sine of theta j. And meaning that our n plus the weight equals, okay, by the way, what is our weight? Okay, our weight, now I'll write it here, weight is equal to mg, okay, this is just mg, negative mg j hat. Okay, that's negative mg j hat. So this plus that, okay, is just, okay, that thing happens with x, mg sine theta cosine theta plus m omega squared r cosine theta I hat, and plus, okay, I'll shortcut this, and you can actually do the algebra here. This minus that is, notice that there's mg sine squared and minus mg. We can factor out mg, and we have now mg sine squared theta minus 1. But sine squared theta is just, sine squared theta minus 1 is just negative of cosine squared theta. So this means that this whole thing is, okay, m omega squared r sine of theta minus mg cosine squared of theta. You can actually show this, that this minus that, because they are both in j, is just this. Okay, it's easy to show. Okay, now since this one is equal to this means that, okay, this one, okay, sorry, this is equal to that, and this one here is equal to this. Okay, so let's, I think I'll erase the top because this is quite a long derivation. Okay, so you can just rewind to rewind if you want to get this form. Okay, so I'll start again here at the top. This is equal to this. Okay, but notice that since we are moving in a circle, what is x? X is r cosine of theta, and y is equal to r sine of theta. So let's replace this by x and y by this. So let's take it as the left-hand side. So the left-hand side is, okay, when you equate this to this, notice that the masses will cancel because you can factor out the mass here. So the mass will cancel if this is equal to that. So I'll omit the mass in this equation here because the mass cancels out. So what we get now is we have this minus omega squared r cosine of theta minus alpha r sine of theta equals this. Okay, so this is just omega squared r cosine of theta plus g sine of theta cosine of theta. Okay, we have some sort of unknowns here, omega and alpha, but we have two equations. The second equation is this equal to that. Okay, so from the second, okay, this is now our equation 1. Let me write this. This is our equation. This is equation 1. Our equation 2 is equating this to this. And again, the mass will cancel out. Okay, you can factor out the mass here. It will cancel out. So you have now minus omega squared r, this is y, r sine of theta plus alpha r cosine of theta. Okay, that's x equals this m omega, there's no longer m, so you have now omega squared r sine of theta minus mg cosine squared theta. And I think, yeah, we have copied it correctly. So I'll erase this one now. And okay, let me, okay, meaning here that minus omega squared, okay, let's divide this by, okay, divide this by, okay, multiply it 1 over r sine theta. So from here, you have now omega squared plus, okay, alpha. So you have r cancels out. So this is now alpha times cosine of theta over sine of theta. Okay. And equals, this is omega, okay, wait, I'll I'm going to, yeah, transfer this to the other side. So in this case, if I'm going to move it here, it becomes negative there. So this will become, there's a 2 here. Okay? There's a 2. And, okay, let me refine equation 1 first. Equation 1 now clearly becomes, I'll write equation 1, okay. I'll move it here so that it will be easy later when we use this one. So there's a negative 2 here, right? Minus 2. So here, this means that you have now minus 2 omega squared r cosine of theta, okay? Plus alpha r sine theta plus alpha r sine of theta equals g sine theta cosine theta. G sine theta cosine of theta. So this is our equation 1. Okay? And, okay. From here, this means, yeah, 1 over sine. So this becomes now minus 2 omega squared. This cancels out. Plus alpha cosine of theta over sine of theta, okay, equals, this is, okay, there's no m here again, g minus g over r cosine squared theta over sine of theta. This means that 2 omega squared is just alpha cos over sine. So this is just minus, equals, this becomes minus alpha cosine theta over sine of theta. And, okay, this is now our equation 2. And substitute 2. Okay, let's substitute 2 to equation 1. What do we get? Meaning that we have to replace this whole thing here. That's why I made it into 2 minus 2 omega squared by this. Okay? So meaning, if you multiply this whole thing by r cosine theta, okay? Because you're going to substitute this one to the here. When you multiply it, okay? This by r cosine theta, okay? So meaning this is minus times r cosine theta. What do you get? You have now minus, for this first term, minus alpha r cosine squared theta over sine theta, right? Multiply this by r cosine theta. And this one, this becomes minus, r will cancel out. So this is now minus g cosine cube theta over sine theta. And, yeah. And this is now plus alpha r sine theta equals g sine theta cosine of theta. Now, let's multiply this again. by sine theta. Okay, let's multiply it by sine theta. Okay, there's no space to write. But anyway, we multiply both sides by sine theta, meaning that this will cancel out. So you have now minus alpha r cosine squared theta minus, this will cancel out also, g cosine cube theta plus, this is now alpha, wait, is this a plus? Sorry, I think this should be a minus because, okay, I made a mistake. This is the first equation. So this is a minus here. Okay? Because notice that this whole term here comes from, this is alpha y. Okay, so this is minus here. Okay, I hope that okay, this is just a small correction. Okay, so this is now minus alpha r sine squared theta equals g sine squared theta cosine theta. And this equation now becomes, okay, okay, let's group the terms with alpha. So minus alpha r. And then we can factor out, notice that, okay, we can factor out r, sine, yeah, we can factor out alpha r. So meaning you have now cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta equals g sine theta plus, you have a plus g cosine cube theta. Okay, g sine squared theta cosine theta plus g cosine cube of theta. But notice that we can cancel, we can factor out g cosine theta in both terms here. It's common, right? So we can write this as g cosine theta times, this is sine squared theta, that one, and cosine theta is already here, plus cosine squared theta, because that was cube, and we have cosine here. And notice that this is 1 and that is 1. What we have now is minus alpha r equals g cosine in theta. Since alpha is theta double dot, we get now theta double dot equals minus g over r cosine of theta. Okay, there's a dot here. I'll write it here. Theta double dot equals minus gr cosine of theta. This is what we obtained. Now, is this the same in the first? Almost, but almost, only that this is a negative. In the first solution, we had theta dot equals g over r cosine of theta before we solve it. Okay? Now, we have negative here. And why is this, there's a negative side. We have to resolve this one. The negative side is actually due to the fact that when we use this, our axis is no longer here, but our axis now is at the center. Okay? Our axis is, now we are now taking the axis at the center and it does not move. Okay? It does not even rotate. Okay, it is fixed there. We have an absolute axis. And this negative here would be needed in order for the solution to be valid, and I'll show it to you why it's needed. Okay, we will solve this again with the negative sign, and you're already familiar now how to solve that. Okay, and we'll start with, okay, again, this leads to theta dot d theta dot equals minus g over r cosine theta d theta. Notice that there's a negative here. When we integrate, again, we integrate this from 0 to theta dot. So this is just 1/2 theta dot squared equals, and this is minus g over r sine of theta. But here's the difference now. Our limit in the first was actually 0 to pi over 2. But now, since our coordinate system is here, and this is absolute, this is actually, this is fixed here. We are in the lab frame, meaning that this is what we call the lab frame. The laboratory is here, and things are being measured with respect to the center. And with respect to the center, this one goes from pi to 3 pi over 2, meaning that our integral is actually going from pi to some theta, which is actually 3 pi over 2 if we set it here. Okay? Now, sine of pi is just 0. So, meaning this is just g sine theta. And here, again, this will lead to v squared equals minus 2gr sine of theta. Now, of course, here, our theta now would be greater than pi. Okay? It's no longer in the first quadrant. In fact, we are in the third quadrant. Okay? Now, when we evaluate, when theta now equals 3 pi over 2, at this point here, on the ground, okay, okay, when this is now 3 pi over 2, notice that this is actually negative 1. So, sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. So, it's just you get the same 3gr. Or even though if you use, square root of 2gr. Even if you use this, if we set this to be any, okay, this is negative 2gr. This is actually saying that at theta equals 3 pi over 2, our y, our height, is not r but negative r, because we are below the lab. It's below the lab frame. Okay, so this means that there is no contradiction here. V is just equal again to 2 square root of 2gr, and we obtain the same solution. Okay. That's why there's a negative here, and it should have a negative, because in this lab frame, this actually goes from pi to pi over 2. If there's no negative here, then this will become a negative square root. Okay? So meaning that these two equations will produce the same solution. Now, the third solution I showed to you is the most general solution. Okay? The first one is somehow a technique. It actually, remember that compared to the solution 3, the first solution is actually much better. Okay? The first solution is much easy, much shorter. The third solution is very, it's quite, it's a lot longer than the first solution. Okay? Because this is much more general. This is using Cartesian solution. Okay, the first solution is actually by using the radial. This is actually, it's like this. The first solution is using the polar coordinate system to solve the problem. The second solution is using the Cartesian. Now, whenever we are rotating in systems that rotates, our solution is actually much better expressed in terms of the polar coordinates. Okay, rather than the Cartesian. Okay, so but there are also problems in which is, of course, the Cartesian will simplify the problem much more than the polar. Okay, so anyway, that's our this is the, I think, if you have any comments or any correction or whatever, you can just write in the comment. And please subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. By the way, you may want to ask, why do I have that silver play button there? Because the subscriber in this channel has not even reached 1,000 yet. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed yet, so that I can reach up to the monetization. That's actually in my that's from my music production channel. You see, I'm also a music producer, and I expose artists, local artists, musical artists, And in that channel, Fourier Studio. Okay, Fourier Studio. Okay, I'll write it here. Please, you can visit this channel. Fourier. It's read as Fourier actually. Fourier Studio. Okay, this was formerly known as Fake Studio. This was the name, the original name of the fake was a fake studio. But of course, it's no longer fake. I renamed it to Fourier Studio. You can go to my channel and subscribe there if you love music. I'm a musician and same time a music producer. I've already made a lot of artists, and I mean several artists who are now actually legends in their regional areas. Okay, so thank you for watching this video.